And we are live. Welcome to Show Me Your Pick. We have a very special show for you today. We're going to be talking about Alcatraz. All right, there's been a little change of plans in the show itinerary, but we have a couple special guests with us that I'm very excited about. But let's bring in my partner in crime, legendary rock journalist Steve Rosen.
Hey, Tom, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Steve. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks.
How's things going this week?
Oh, good. Just been going through this collection of backstage passes I got. I think I told you about. I have like 125,000 backstage passes, and been trying to organize this thing, and that's making me crazy. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's getting there.
yeah. I've noticed a couple postings of yours, and I know it has to be overwhelming on the amount of stuff, though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
unbelievable. I mean, there's so many passes. It's, every time I open a box, it's like, oh my God, AC/DC and Metallica and Pantera and Nine Inch Nails and Bon Jovi and U2, it's just unbelievable, but
yeah,
fun,
yeah. Cool, cool.
Yeah. So we got some special people in the house, Tony. Tell us about it.
We do. Um, let me bring in, to start with, our co-producer and the gal that makes things click around here at Show Me Your Pick, the lovely Sandra Pokorney.
It burns. It burns. Hi, guys. Hello.
Sandra.
Hi.
Hey, Sandra.
How are you?
Good.
Gonna take a second to say hello to some friends in chat. My brother Big G, Gary Tholander, and my co-host Bent Tom, Metal Soda, the Dog Pa. Hello, hello. Anybody else tuning in? Thanks for being here. Make sure to click the links in the description. Hit that thumbs up. And are we ready? Can I do this?
We are ready. Goodness.
Our first guest, singer, songwriter, producer, engineer, and of course, keyboard player. Our second guest really needs no intro. He's the shred lord himself of heavy metal, power metal, speed metal, neoclassical metal. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Waldo and Joe Stump from Alcatraz. Hello, guys.
Hey, guys.
Welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming on. Don't want to waste any time because I know that you can't stay that long. So I'm going to ask first question. Your new album, Born Innocent, just released yesterday, just dropped yesterday. Videos are up on YouTube now. I want to know, how was it working with Graham Bonnet again after so long?
Well, I'd done the last two Graham Bonnet records. I've been in the band doing the Graham Bonnet band stuff. So it was great. Graham and I have been friends forever and ever and ever and ever. So we didn't work together for some years after Alcatraz broke up in the day. But it was great. We just picked up where we left off, basically. But doing the Graham Bonnet band stuff was never as fulfilling as this. This is where my heart is doing what we're doing now. And so this is really what it needed to be from the beginning. So, but it's been great working with Graham again, especially doing the heavier stuff now. It's way better.
Very cool. Yeah, he sounds just as good as he ever has, and the album is amazing. You guys did a great job on it. So, chat, if you haven't, check it out after the show. Go listen to Born Innocent. I will post the link to Alcatraz's YouTube in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Pardon?
So, Jimmy, what's it like been working with Joe? You know, I mean, you've worked with some pretty good guitar players over the years. I mean, how does Joe measure up to these other guys?
Well, as a guitar player, there's no question about him measuring up. He's way there and then some. But personally, is the big one for me is being able to work with people. And Yngwie was a cool guy. We got along okay. I mean, there was a lot of rumors about bullshit, but the truth is we got along okay. But Yngwie he was a little difficult to work with, and he wasn't an asshole. It's not that kind of thing. It was just he was on a different mission, and so it wasn't as much fun, unfortunately. And Steve Vai was always, and again, Steve, great guy, great to work with, very talented guitar player, but just a different mentality. Whereas Joe is easier to work with and easier to write with, and is more in tune with the band as opposed to being a solo artist. And always. I mean, even though he has his own solo career, he's totally a band guy. And for me, it's a lot more fun working with him because of that. And as opposed to working with a lot of guys, which are from the start, Yngwie and Steve both were no intention of staying in a band or being in a band, really. So this is a lot more fun. Joe and I have a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun on the road. So it's been great. So
Joe, I mean, what does that feel like? Working on the new record, and kind of. I mean, you're not replacing Yngwie or Steve, but certainly it's part of this lineage that I'm sure you're aware of. So I mean, what's that like? I mean, is it kind of going in there and bringing your own personality to the music? Is it thinking, what was it that you loved about the classic Alcatraz stuff? I mean, what is sort of going through your head when you're in there cutting these tracks?
Well, I mean, I wore out the No Parole record. That was like one of my favorite records, as well as like, a bunch of other stuff Graham sang on, Down to Earth and Assault Attack and everything. So, and whether it's Richie or Yngwie, those guys are like heavy influences of mine and heroes of mine. And I naturally write in that very European, most of the stuff I write is either in that European metal kind of vibe, or like older school hard rock stuff, or like some stuff that's a little meaner and heavier. And on this particular record, Alcatraz wanted to be heavier. And of course, you still have all the neoclassicalisms that you'd associate with Yngwie era Alcatraz, because that's a big part of what I do. But the band's got a bit more balls, and it's a little meaner, and it's a little bit more metal sounding. The new record's a bit more of a metal record than a hard rock record. Mm-hmm. So I kind of bring that, more aggressive elements of the band. But on that note, I'm very proud to be part of the lineage. Anybody gets an Alcatraz record, they're expecting, obviously Yngwie and Steve set the bar pretty high guitar wise. So you really got to deliver the goods in that instance.
That's cool, man. I mean, Jimmy, if I was a fly on the wall and I was sitting there in the studio with you recording the Born Innocent record, what would I see? I mean, what is that process like? Is it Joe kind of putting down some scratch guitars and some bass parts, or is it, Graham kind of, finding, melodies and phrasing? I mean, is it you laying down some keyboard things? I mean, what is that progression like, recording an Alcatraz song?
And how long is that progression?
Gosh, I don't know. How long did that take?
Well, a lot of times what I end up doing myself is I'll write like pretty much a completed tune I don't write the lyrics or the melody lines, but exactly how the arrangement and how it lays out. Well, this is the chorus, this is the pre-chorus, this is the verse, this is the bridge, and pretty much send a finished product over. And I'll cut my guitars, here in my workroom at home, and then send it over. And I had like a ton of tunes, so some stuff I'd record, and if it wasn't grabbing Graham, then he would be like, because he doesn't like anything, you know what I mean? Especially if it's an E. Oh, Joe, all your songs are an E. No,
Yeah.
they're not. No, they're actually not, Graham. I'm down a half step. They're an E flat. But anyway. Exactly. What was I going to say? But anyway, so if it was something that didn't grab, I'm like, cool, I'll use it for something else. I got a bunch of stuff in the pipes. So it was some of that. And this particular record, they had a whole bunch of special guests on it, because before I got involved with the band, they were kind of pitching an Alcatraz reunion to some of the record labels. And they were saying, okay, well, we're going to take a bunch of guys that used to work with Graham in the past, and we're going to have like a whole bunch of different, guitar players on the record. And and it ended up being a cool thing. But I'm doing the bulk of the heavy lifting on the thing. But Dario Molo plays on a couple tracks and wrote a couple things, because him and Graham worked together with Don Airy. And Chris and Pelletieri wrote Born Innocent, and Chris plays on that, did a killer job. And Bob Kulick wrote a couple tunes on the record. He played like a couple small guitar things, but I played most of the guitars on Bob's tunes. So it ended up being a cool thing.
And
That's
Graham
cool, man.
typically,
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
well, in regards to Graham, the way he works is we pretty much finish a track. I cut all the drums with Mark at Mark's studio, and we had everything done, and then give the track to Graham, and I would go cut vocals with Graham with a finished track, really, because he likes to work having everything there, all the guitar parts, real drums and everything, and keyboards, and so I would have the multi-track there so I could balance stuff to suit his vocal that day. And some days he might like a lot of guitar and not much drums, just a click and a lot of guitar. Other songs he would want almost no guitar in the headphone mix and a lot of keyboards. It varies, doing stuff with him. But yeah, he was working to finish tracks. We'd work to completely finish tracks, and then he would have the stuff maybe for a month, writing melody and lyrics, and then we just go in and cut it. And we get a song a day, maybe. Sometimes we do verses and doubles and a little harmony, and then come in the next day and do all the chorus stuff. Sometimes we get everything all in one day in a song.
That's cool. I'm sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead. You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Cool, man. So I know you guys have done a fair amount of touring recently. Before this virus freaking thing hit, you guys were out there. I mean, tearing it up in Europe and Japan. I mean, what is that? Excuse me. What has that been like?
It's been great. I mean, the venues that we've been playing in Europe and England are they're clubs, big clubs, but really good rock audiences, much better than here in the States. Great. They're way into what we do over there. And Japan, that's insane. That's way bigger venues and huge stages and big productions. And they filmed everything over there, and we recorded live. So that's as good as it gets, playing over there. And with this, so it was great. It was great.
I mean, that must feel rewarding to have been part of a project all those years ago, and to have it still resonate all these years later, and have people come in to see the band. I mean, Jimmy, I know you tend to be a little humble about that stuff, man, but Alcatraz was one of those bands, man. They were there, and what you guys did was very unique. So I mean, that has to feel good, right? going out there and playing in front of crowds and being appreciated, and Japan still, opening its arms to the band?
It does. It feels great, but you don't think about that. I don't think about that much as I do. We got a 2.5 hour show to play, and they're filming. There's cameras mounted on my keyboards. There's cameras everywhere. So I'm more worried about get the job done and quit thinking about like, oh, this is so cool that they love this from in the day, But I'm caught up in the moment. It's a lot of work. That Japan shows, especially that 2.5 hour show. It's a long show. I love it. I love playing. I'd like to play even 3 hours. Would be okay with me. But I know as a band, it's tough rehearsing that show, getting it all together. So I'm completely preoccupied with that. I don't even think about, the fun part of it until you're there doing it.
I mean, playing with guys like Steve and Joe and Yngwie, I mean, that music is not the easiest music in the world to play. As a keyboard player, I can imagine that you've been challenged in moments to, maybe double some of Steve's parts and, trying to figure out what Joe is doing and come up with parts. I mean, that has to be a challenge for you as a musician, right?
It is, but that's what it's all about, is being challenged. Right. I don't like working. I like working with guys that are way better players than me, which Joe is technically, and Steve was, and Yngwie was. But it pulls me up and makes me work harder, which I love. That's kind of what it's all about, is learning and growing, and not just playing the same stuff. I see a lot of bands on the road, older bands, and some of the players in the bands are just playing pretty boring stuff that they played in the day and not stretching. And that's no fun. That would be no fun for me. So it's great working with these guys because I learn a lot from each one. Steve and I doubled a lot of stuff, so that was a lot of work. Steve and I did a lot of parts together live, and very difficult playing for me, but he would write it out. So I'd have to get my music reading chops back together, and we'd learn it, and we'd work on it. Just he and I would work on it together. So I love that. That's just great.
So there's no grass growing under you guys' feet. I understand you guys are actually writing now. That's where you are now, at Joe's in Boston, writing for a new Alcatrazz record.
That's correct. We're at Joe's studio, putting down guitars.
Tentative end date, or?
Not really, because we jumped right on this pretty early. Joe had been writing, and I've been writing, so we got on it pretty early. So as you know, the record just came out yesterday. So because of this virus thing, there's just no telling, when we can finish this thing soon.
Right.
I can go cut drums next week, but we'll take our time and make sure it's right. And we got lots of songs to pick from. And Joe's a prolific writer. He's constantly writing. So, and so am I. So we don't want to cut ourselves short either. So we're not going to rush it. There's no reason to rush.
Right.
So I don't know. A couple of months at least to finish it from now. I would like to think we'd be done with this by Christmas. But
yeah, well, regardless, it's not going to come out till like sometime next year.
Yeah.
And I know the Japanese, they recorded, because with the Japanese tour, like on two of the Tokyo shows, one night we did the whole No Parole record, plus, a bunch of Graham's back catalog from Pelletary and Shanker, and of course the Alcatraz stuff. And then the other night we did the whole Down to Earth record. So I forget how many tunes that is total. Somewhere over 20. No, I think maybe between 25 and 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they got a live record and a DVD coming out next year, and then and since we're obviously all the touring stalled for this year, the idea is to have the second record ready. That way, when we can get back out on the road next year, hopefully when the dust settles and and everything gets back to some semblance of normalcy, and then we'll be freed up to tour as much as we need to, as opposed to have to worry about making the record amidst touring.
That's been a problem in the past. Is we had tours booked, and we had to do a record, so we'd be halfway through a record and have to stop and rehearse, and then tour.
Right.
And then you come back from tour and have to put it back together again and get in that mode.
Right.
It won't be like that this time. Like Joe said, the record will be done, and then we'll go tour, which is great. Can concentrate on the touring and not worry about, oh my God, we're late on the record. The deadline's coming up. We'll be way ahead of the deadline this time.
Yeah, and Silver Lining and the Japanese record company are already asking about the second record, and they have their contracts ready, the advance money ready, all that nonsense. So they're ready to keep going as far as because the response to the first record's been real good so far initially. So everyone, the powers that be are pleased, I guess.
Okay, I want to take a question from the chat. Bent Tom says that he bought your album Night of the Living Shred and his head nearly exploded. Do you have any tips on picking clearly?
Picking clearly? Well, I'm still working on it myself. It's like anything, like anything, it requires, you want to be good at anything, it requires old-fashioned elbow grease and a lot of work and a lot of dedication. So I'm very fortunate, since I make my living playing the thing, that, a guitar is in my hands, 6 hours a day, whether I like it or not, most of the time, just about every day. And so it's just a matter of just trying to set up some kind of regimented routine where you're playing on a regular basis, and making sure your technique's proper. And another good thing is like making sure, because a lot of guys get caught up technically on what they're playing and everything. It's good to try to listen to yourself while you're playing as well, because so many players get caught up in the technical end of it, and upstrokes, downstrokes, and all that nonsense. And getting caught up in trying to play it faster, trying to play it cleaner, as opposed to also listening to yourself more.
I think what I would add to that, having worked with all these guys, is
right.
The more you record yourself and are honest with yourself and listen to your guitar playing back to a click or to a drum machine or a drummer or whatever, but some kind of so it's disciplined, and you have to work on your meter and all that stuff. But listening to it back and being honest with yourself is really important, because I know a lot of guys that play, and they go to a club and they play, and people respond, and oh, how great you are, and they don't really listen to what they're doing. They think because they've learned some fast licks, it's all over, and there's so much more to it, like Joe said, and really got to be critical of your own playing and know your limits.
Right. I have one more quick question from chat. Guitar Hack is asking if you guys ever get together and record in the same room.
No, which is kind of sad. I mean, it would be a cool thing, like I grew up in New York, so as you could hear by my accent. And I always dreamed of playing in, Electric Lady Studios and live in the Hendrix Room, and the whole band's in there and you're cutting tracks and all that. Or or I'm working at Musicland in Munich, where they made where with Martin Birch, they made those early Rainbow records or something, and that old school thing, everybody being in the room, and which is a cool thing, because back when I used to record in studios with the guys, I mean, it was a cool thing in that the performance the energy of playing with the other players would fuel the performance. But sadly, with the kind of budget action in the record industry in this day and age, and just logistically, travel wise and all that, and cost effective wise, as far as the most efficient way to track, unless you're on a massive budget or like a huge band. I think that's a thing of the past.
Okay.
So everybody good? Jimmy, Joe, you guys got to bail here.
Well, yeah. A few
Yeah,
minutes.
but if anybody's got any questions or anything else they
Yeah.
want to talk about, we're cool for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
I actually wanted to ask you, Joe, and I actually asked another Joe this question, Satriani. I mean, as somebody with so much technique, I mean, there's probably very little that you cannot play. When you're coming up with riffs, either for your own stuff or for an Alcatraz song, I mean, are you pushing yourself to go to places that you've never been before? I mean, are there riffs that you kind of conceive in your head that really takes you a little bit of time to kind of get beneath your fingers and learn? You know what I mean? It's like I can't imagine there's something that you can't play, but are you trying to challenge yourself as a guitar player to come up with different kinds of riffs and phrasing and intervals and chord voicings, that kind of thing?
Well, myself, a lot of the things I play are I'm always trying to expand my vocabulary, and I'm always coming up with new ideas or twists on things that are already in my wheelhouse, but I'm just putting a different spin on it or whatever. So I'm always trying to improve as a player and as a musician. And I mean, different things are challenging. Like, for example, like Steve Vai wrote a tune on the Alcatraz record, Dirty Like the City. And it's very much, I play a very, European style of guitar. And Steve's thing was like, very much, and Steve's like, his own, so much his own thing. So for me, that was very challenging because was it technically extremely difficult? There were some, parts where, you really had to work to make sure you were doing justice to the track. But since it was so out of my wheelhouse, it was quite challenging. So that would be an example of something where I really had to step up my game, and it was playing something outside of my comfort zone. But I mean, I come up with stuff all the time, whether it's going to be on one of my solo records or whether it's in a solo section for Alcatraz or a concerted section for Alcatraz, where I'll practice it up and work on it before I'm gonna play. Before I'm going to cut it, and of course, when you're going to play it live, a whole nother end of preparation goes into it.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. Jimmy, I mean, with the advent of the digital thing and being able to record, on your laptop, I mean, has that afforded you the luxury of kind of, expanding what you do as a keyboard player and, being able to kind of move around so easily and so many new sounds available? And, I know back in the day you were a Mellotron guy and you were lugging that thing around. I mean, what has kind of the digital age done for you as a keyboard player, and more specifically, the computer thing and kind of having everything in one little box?
It really helps because I have my studio with me everywhere I go, complete studio. The only thing that I can't take with me is a Leslie speaker, but I can put down organ parts that sound good enough that I can get inspired to write or play or put parts down. And then if I want, when I go home to my studio, I can do the Leslie thing. So, but the digital thing for me has been amazing because everywhere I go in the world, I have the same exact keyboard setup, and I have more sounds than I could ever want. I mean, I have all the Mellotrons. So I have everything that I had in the old days. I have it live with me everywhere, no matter where we go. And it's always the same because of computers and technology. So I love it.
That's cool, man. I mean, is there any new music that either of you guys listen to for inspiration? I mean, I'm not talking about going back to Queen or Zeppelin or Blackmore. I mean, any kind of more contemporary stuff that you guys listen to, or, you might check something out and go, oh, that's cool. I mean, not that you're going to go in and copy that, but, just trying to, bring in, new ideas, that kind of thing.
Well, myself, I listen to all different kinds of metal stuff. And on my solo records, I'll have elements of black metal and black metal things and thrash metal things and extreme metal things, mixed in with of course, like the older school hard rock and European power metal or neoclassical metal bit. So I'm always injecting those types of things. And some of the stuff on the new Alcatraz record, I mean, it's definitely heavier and it's definitely more metal. But I mean, I really have to keep it in the context of the band. But I have this, quick, up tempo, almost kind of thrashy thing that we're actually, going to cut today. That I wrote when I was in the midst of touring last year. So I mean, I'm always bringing that in, but when it comes to Alcatraz, as opposed to my own thing, I try to think of it in that it's going to have to fit in the context of what the band's doing in the direction of the particular record.
So we can expect to hear a black metal Alcatraz record coming out, or what?
Completely.
I don't know about a black, but there will be elements of it's definitely the heavy, like this particular version of Alcatraz is certainly the heaviest one,
Yeah.
Won't be any Cookie Monster stuff, but it'll be heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of guitars.
Lots of guitars.
Well, we're having fun here layering guitars. It's been a blast. So Joe's got several Marshalls down in the basement, and stuff's mic'd up. So the whole house, when he's playing, it's like a jet taking off in the living room. The Marshall the whole house is filled. We're having fun.
I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Well, I say we're having fun because it's fun to record. That's the old school part of what we do is Joe's plugging into his favorite Marshalls and we're micing it up and recording it. So we're not an electronic band in that sense. And the sounds that I use on keyboards really are old, tried and true organ sounds and synths and stuff. So I'm not trying to break any sound barriers or anything with, to invent any new synthesizers or anything like that. So that's the old school part of what we do. But like Joe said, it's impossible for everybody to get together in the same room anymore and record. Really hard. Although that's in my mind to do that because I record the drums on these records and a lot of the guitars and stuff. So that would be a dream of mine, is to rehearse the stuff so good that we could go somewhere for a couple of weeks. That's all it would take, and record everything live.
Right.
You do the vocals maybe later, but certainly record the band playing in the same room together. So I know I've read articles with Deep Purple, old articles that said when they did Smoke on the Water and stuff like that, those guys were all in the same place. And they played, and they would listen to playback at that hotel, and they would talk about how they thought they didn't see the magic, but they had fun. That's just the way it was like rehearsal for them. Mm-hmm. But they talk about it, and I'd done a lot of records like that in the old days, where you're all in the same room. And I've done it at Electric Lady. We recorded at Electric. New England recorded there, so. That was fun being in that room with that vibe, and all that. So it really I hope we'll get a shot at doing that in the future.
Probably not.
Yeah, but probably not.
I would say probably not, but at least you did it,
Yeah. Come to Boston, we could do it. We could do it here.
Joe, we have a gear question in the chat. Our buddy Metal Soda from the Great White North wants to know if you still play ESP guitars.
And my husband want to know that.
Yes, I've been with ESP for well over 20 years. And the last Alcatraz tour I had 2 LTD ST213s, which is kind of like their off-the-rack Strat. and then I had a couple ESP custom shop Strats with me. And so I have a variety of guitars like that I'll record with and stuff, but live and recording as well. I'm still with ESP. Like we just did one of those digital virtual Wacken, the Wacken Open Air, the big German festival that just aired, and I played 3 different ESPs. Just like us all like split images playing the tracks at home or whatever, very common in today's day and age with the virus. But maybe that'll air sometimes because I have like 3 cool looking ESPs in that video.
Cool.
What is it about ESP, Joe, that you dig?
Well, they're a great, like, super high quality guitar, and some of my ESP Stratocasters are every bit, if not better, than anything made in the Fender Custom Shop. And they've been very, very, very good to me. And I'm a Strat guy, and of course I have a huge collection of Fenders and stuff too. But it kind of a cross between a traditional Stratocaster and like a metal guitar, I would have to say. So it's kind of nice. It's got some of the all of the features of like a standard Stratocaster, but still with some other features that are like make it more of a metal machine. So I like the combination of the two. Plus, they give them to me for free. They give them to me for free. So that's another nice perk to have, like, the best metal guitar company sending you guitars.
Don't tell anybody that, Joe. They might come knocking at your door, buddy. No, I know. I can't remember his name. He was A&R at ESP a while ago. He left. I can't remember his name, but he was very cool. I mean, ESP really seems to understand the player, and really caters to the player. You've never been a Gibson guy, Joe?
No. I mean, I have a few Vs. I love flying Vs, and I have ESP sent me one, more of a metal guitar, but I have I think a 67 reissue Gibson Flying V, and I have a Epiphone Gothic that I think on the Alcatraz record I used my Epiphone Gothic V on the 2 Kulik tunes. For the rhythm parts, I Am the King and The Wound is Open. It was played there in drop D, so I was playing a V on those. And I love and I always go through periods where I'm like, I came very close to buying a Gary, because I'm a huge Gary Moore fanatic, so I came very close to buying like a Gary Moore signature Les Paul at one point, but I just knew it was a sin and I wasn't going to play it a huge amount. So no, I'm much more of a Strat guy.
Very cool. There's a question here, Jimmy. Do you still have a B3? And if you do, when was the last time you had to move it?
That's for my brother.
I do still have a B3, and I think it's when I moved it from your garage, Stephen. I moved it, obviously, when I moved to Chicago from LA, I moved it. And I have it right now. I'm in Chicago, which is the home of Hammond. So I have this premier Hammond guy rebuilding it, nice, and is going to do a number on it for me. So I'm going to be able to use it, which is going to be really fun because I've had that B3 since the late 60s. So, but I haven't used it in years. But I can't carry a B3 around, and the gigs we play, you don't go to these clubs and say, oh, by the way, you need to rent me a B3 and a Leslie. They're not going to do it. So I simulate that live, and I'm really happy with what I'm getting because I use a very dirty organ sound live anyway, so it's pretty nasty. So, moving to B3, no, thank you. I think once I get it rebuilt and get it at home in my studio, that'll be it. I won't be moving that boy around.
Yeah, I'm sure. Jimmy, you're working with some other people, some other artists. Can you talk about that?
Working some with Michael Bruce that wrote all the Alice Cooper hits. He was the original guitar player in Alice Cooper. Sort of producing a record for him with him in Phoenix, but that's on a slow hold because of the stupid virus thing. I haven't been able to get back to Phoenix to work on that more. And then other than that, I have a project called Rock Island Orchestra with Gary Shea, the bass player in Alcatraz, and that's some friends of mine and that's just a project. That's not a touring thing or a band. That's just a recording thing, and that's a lot of fun. So I do that. That's about it.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Jimmy, I just noticed that the banner going across the bottom here, welcome special guests Joe Stump and Jimmy Waldo of Alcatraz. They spelled Alcatraz wrong, and that's an unforgivable sin, to be quite honest with you. Had I seen that before we went on, I really would have screamed bloody murder. That should never have happened.
Ooh, that ain't right.
So I'm not going to point fingers, but I certainly didn't do it.
I'm not getting
when I saw that, Stephen, I got to tell you, I was so depressed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, my Lord.
It was devastating.
I'm more depressed than you are.
I didn't even know if I could talk when I saw that one Z. I just thought, boy, the day's over, you know. I don't think it's a problem.
All right, man.
Everything's happened in a hurry.
Didn't want you to be offended.
Crazy.
And maybe I can do a little bit of heartless self-promotion here. Jimmy, you and I are on the cusp of kind of putting songs that we've been writing together to kind of revisit these songs. And can we talk about the potential singer for these songs and where the project might be going?
Well, a couple of singers in mind, and I won't mention any names because I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But these are known guys that are really great singers, and like Steven said, he and I have been writing songs together for 30 years, over that probably, and we recently. Within the last few months, went back and reworked a lot of that stuff and totally re-recorded it from the beginning and changed some parts and stuff. And we're going to do a record with one of these singers. And that'll be in the near, we're about 6-7 songs down on that. So we got a few more songs to write, but and that'll go quick, I think. And Steven's doing 90% of the guitars on that record. So I get to stress him out at his house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I know it's tough. It's fun for me, though, to watch him put himself, torture himself to try to get the parts. But he actually is a really good player, and it sounds great. He's doing a great job.
And I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say that Joe has been considerate enough that he might find his way to put a solo or two down on a couple of these songs, which would be freaking unbelievable. I told him not to be intimidated by my guitar parts, so I think he'll be able to deal with it. But seriously, that'd be amazing. I mean,
I played him some of the stuff, and he definitely, I could see the shake. He was,
I could tell.
A little nervous.
Yeah.
Hack and Chat wants to know if you have any stories about Kiss.
Me?
Yes.
Touring with Kiss.
Yes.
Well, actually, yeah, it was a lot of fun for us. We played Madison Square Garden for 2 nights, and we played venues like that with them. Paul Stanley produced the record, so we spent a lot of time with Paul in the studio and hanging out and stuff. They were great. They treated us great. We had the same management for several years, so we were around them a lot, and they were great guys. They treated us really good, and on the road, you couldn't have gotten treated better. We always got sound checks if it was possible. And so There was a few, I could tell a few stories, but I think I wouldn't feel comfortable with a lady present, and I don't know who's watching, so some of these are a little off the rails. And it wasn't the guys in Kiss.
Stories.
It wasn't the guys in Kiss that were doing these things. I will say that it was the road crew, Kiss's road crew, and our road crew did some things on the Kiss tour that I can't talk about. I hate to not describe it, but like I said, I feel a little uncomfortable describing that. But it was fun. We had a lot of fun touring with those guys. A lot of fun. Way too much fun.
And I'm just going to put in an addendum here, Jimmy. I know that New England was really doing really well back in the day when you guys were opening those Kiss shows. And like it or not, I mean, I don't think Kiss were real happy with that. And ultimately, New England was no longer opening shows for Kiss because of your popularity. So,
well, it was that tour for them didn't go as well as planned. We were supposed to do Madison Square Garden for 4 nights. They had to cancel the last 2 nights. So they did 2 nights at the Garden. The second night wasn't sold out. So Kiss was not, that record didn't do as well for them as they had hoped. And our record was doing amazing. It was a timing thing. We were just right place at the right time. And we played a lot of shows with them. And then we played up in our hometown area of Boston. And actually that show, I think, was in New Hampshire, one of the last shows. And Gene was a little upset by the reaction we got and decided that we shouldn't be on the tour anymore. It wasn't anything personal. Gene was cool about it, and we understood, and we went on to play open for a bunch of other great bands, and it was all good. But it was a compliment to actually know that we were doing well enough to have to leave a tour, because of that. So, but we toured with everybody in the day. So it was great. It was no problem.
And I just want to touch really quickly on that, Jimmy. All these bands that you guys went on to tour with, I mean, and I can't remember them all. Nugent, AC/DC. I mean, I know there were a ton of others. And you and I, you know that I sell and buy and trade guitar picks. You were telling me that back in the day, you'd be done, an AC/DC show, and the floor would just be littered with Angus's and Malcolm's guitar picks. And of course, you didn't pick them up. You didn't know that I was going to want them 35 years later. No. So come on, what's your excuse? I mean, all those Nugent picks, what were you thinking?
I know. Well, I mean, everybody we toured with, you're slipping on the stage on guitar picks. I mean, with Cheap Trick, as you know, I mean, he's famous for that, throwing picks out to the audience. So there were Cheap Trick picks. It's like, get these things out of here. They're in my luggage. They're everywhere. They're raining guitar picks.
Who else did you tour with, Jimmy?
Journey, AC/DC. We did a bunch of shows with them together, which was really cool. Cheap Trick. We did some shows, Cheap Trick, Kiss, and us. Did a lot of shows with Cheap Trick, actually. But bands like Foghat and people like that in the day, and Styx. Did a lot of shows with Styx in Kansas. That was really cool. I was friends with Tommy Shaw, so we hadn't seen each other in years, and that was fun. I can't remember the other bands. It's a blur.
Did you do any shows with the Aerosmith?
No, we did some shows with the Joe Perry Project in the Boston area. I forget how many, but 3 or 4 in the New England area with Joe.
I mean, those must have been fun days, right?
Those
fun days. I mean, you're in a band and the band's kind of happening. You're doing these pretty freaking cool tours, and it's like, I mean, it's kind of coming together. That must have felt unbelievable, right?
It did. Yeah, it was amazing. And I mean, I miss it in a way because nowadays that's not. It just doesn't work like that anymore. You know, a band like Alcatraz, we do some really nice gigs and some big gigs, and we play a lot of clubs. But and you know, we may end up on tours like that again. We may very well be out touring with bands bigger than us and opening in huge venues like that again. So maybe I'll get to revisit that whole thing again with Alcatraz.
And nab some guitar picks for me when you're out there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start my own business, I think.
There you go.
Guitar pick business. Yeah, no, fuck that. I'll do it myself.
And Joe, are you working on any kind of solo projects or anything outside of Alcatraz at the moment?
I have this one band, Joe Stump's Tower of Babel, which is and all the players are all European guys and all very, very good players. Mark Cross is the drummer, and Mark did a stint with Halloween, and he subbed for the Scorpions and played with Firewind, and you know, he's a powerhouse metal drummer. And Maestro Mysterious playing keys, and he's you know, he's a virtuoso keyboard player. He's played with tons of people. And so I just finished all the guitars on that record. You know, I had been recording it on and off during the Alcatraz, you know, when I was recording a bunch of Born Innocent stuff, and then you know, recently that you know, all throughout this year's, and that's like a very it's very, very Rainbow, Deep Purple, and I got a couple other tunes that sound like, yeah, it's much more of a hard rock record and less of a metal record. But you know, as far as the Rainbow, you know, Rainbow Dio, Deep Purple thing, it's really shaping up to be a great record.
That's cool, man. And I see that we now have Alcatraz spelled correctly. Whoever did that, thank you, Tony. Now we can go on. You can imagine how that upset me. I mean,
I've been rushed all day with everything I've done.
Yes, good, Steve. We know.
Yeah, it's happened
cool. So guys,
quickly.
anything else going on we should know about? Any kind of kind of closing thoughts here?
No, we're just working.
Just working.
Making a record. And
any words of advice to any young people starting out? What would you tell them?
What would I tell people that are starting out?
Yes.
Don't start out.
Yeah.
No. You got to just work really hard and practice. It's all about working your butt off. Forget being a rock star, because that's not part of the thing. You have to really work hard. You have to practice a lot and stay focused. And one thing I think is really important is you gotta understand who you are as a player, as an artist, and not try to be somebody else. You know, we did when Yngwie was in the band, we would do interviews on the tour bus. That was the quietest place to do stuff. So Yngwie and I would be sitting in a booth on the tour bus with a writer, journalist, and Yngwie said some stuff that I thought was really, really great, especially coming from a 19-year-old guy with as little experience as he had at the time. And people asked him what's his advice to young players. And Yngwie said, don't listen to me. Listen to everybody and be influenced by a lot of people, but be yourself. Yeah, and play what's in your heart, and you know, and don't worry about somebody else. If you are influenced by somebody else and it goes that way and that's comfortable and that's who you are, great. But don't and he was saying, don't listen to me. He goes, just do whatever works for you. And that's really important, I think, for any musician or artist, writer. You know, don't try to be something you're not.
All right.
Wise words.
Very wise words. All right. Any other questions? Any from the chat?
Pardon?
Just if there's any other questions here. I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Thank you so much for coming by. I know you guys are in the midst of it there, in the middle of all that stuff. So you guys take care. Jimmy, you take care. Joe, thanks so much, buddy. And remember to play all the good notes, okay?
Okay, we will.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Joe and Jimmy, appreciate you coming today. Thanks so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Stump and Jimmy Waldo, everybody.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Stay tuned for trivia giveaway next.
All right, guys.
All right, bye. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Can you shut them off, Tony? Or Jimmy, I think you can shut off if you want.
Let me.
It's the.
There he is.
They found it.
All righty.
That was crazy.
That was fun.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Goodness. Gosh, that was fun. All right. Steve, appreciate you lining that up today. That's so cool. That is so cool.
Yes. Trivia giveaway.
So we'll do Ozzy next week. No problem. But so, Steve, what I want to ask you, and we've talked about this in weeks past. So when Jimmy and you made music, you've made a couple of albums with him. When did that all start? How'd you know him to start with, and where did it come from?
He and I always try and remember where we first met. And as close as we can remember it was a Kiss show. This is with Vinnie Vincent at the amphitheater. Universal Amphitheater, sorry. And I think that Grover is the famous guitar builder, Jackson Guitars, and he bought Charbel, made all those extraordinary guitars for all those guys back in the 80s, Steve Vai and Steve Lynch, made guitars for Randy Rhoads, Randy's famous guitars. So I think Grover was there, and he introduced Jimmy and I. And after the show, Jimmy and I went out to my car. We sat in the car and we literally talked for 3 hours. He loved King Crimson and, all the stuff I loved, and Jeff Beck. And, man, we just hit it off. He's one of the best people I've ever met. He's always been there for me. I mean, I can barely turn on my cassette player. So if I'd have problems doing stuff, he'd help me record stuff. And, the guy has just been unbelievable. And so we started writing. He knew that I wrote, or we talked about it, and I knew that he wrote. And we just started getting together and writing, and I always had like recording gear, which I could never run. I mean, I used to have like those TAC 4-tracks. And for the life of me, I could not figure that stuff out. So I just bring the 4-track over to Jimmy's, and, I'd put down guitars and he'd put down some keyboards. And then we just kind of progressed through different kinds of gear. I remember buying 3 ADATs. If anybody remembers ADATs at Guitar Center and the BRC, the little master controller. And he and I just kept writing. We were mainly writing, to get the songs to publishers. And we wrote some, what I thought were good songs. you know, I mean, kind of songs. I mean, they were kind of like a, you know, they were AOR, you know, kind of Hart meets Bryan Adams meets Tom Petty, you know, kind of melodic stuff, you know, a little harder, not heavy, but I thought they were good songs. But I mean, I literally tried for years and years and years to get stuff cut, and I could never get it cut. And this is pre-computer, this is pre-email, so I would literally send out postcards. I mean, I would send out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of postcards. Hi, my name is Steve Rosen. I'm a songwriter. You know, are you looking for songs? You know, are you looking for songs for your television shows? Or, oh, hi, you're a producer. Are you looking for songs for your bands? And a lot of them wanted to hear the stuff, and I'd send out cassettes, which is what, you know, the format was back in the day. And you know, I'd say 80% of the response was positive. Yeah, we really like your songs. You know, what else you got? So Jimmy and I would go back, we'd write some more songs, and I'd send out cassettes, and yeah, we really like your songs. What else you got? And man, it was just so impossibly hard. And let me tell you, man, it was frustrating to the point of, I mean, I can't even tell you what that felt like. You know, people get let go from a job, or, you know, they get a pay cut and they feel devastated, you know, like, you know, what is their real worth? And I've been here working and they're letting me go, or they're firing me. Well, I went through that scenario every fucking day when somebody would, you know, write back or call and go, yeah, you know, we can't use your songs, or no, your songs aren't good enough, or now write some more songs, or no, call me next week. I mean, maybe there are people out there who've gone through this, but let me tell you, man, it was crushing. In, I think it was 91, Mark Ferrari, who had been in a band called Keel, was in a band called Cold Sweat. And I had written this guitar riff, and somehow I got together with Mark and wrote him this guitar riff, and he liked it. And that was the first thing I ever actually had cut. In the meantime, Jimmy and I were still writing. He and I decided, well, listen, man, we can't, you know, make a dent doing the rock thing. So he came up with the idea of doing like a world music project. We did a thing called Spirit Nation, which has been described as kind of like Pink Floyd meets Native American music. And it was really good. I mean, we found this girl who was actually half Lakota. And so she was singing in Lakota, but the music was, I don't know, man, Jimmy was using all these, you know, Mellotron tracks, you know, so it had almost like a Beatles feel, you know, and I was writing all these melodies. I mean, it was really good. I was really proud of that. And we got a deal on V2 Records. V2 was Richard Branson's label. At the time, he had signed Moby, and for about a 3-month period there, we were outselling Moby. I mean, we were screaming, man. At the end of the day, I think we sold about 30,000 CDs. CDs had since come in. And for an album like that, a world music project, to sell 30,000 CDs was doing really well. Well, as the story goes, the A&R guy who signed us got fired. New A&R person comes in, you know, didn't understand what we were doing, so we got dropped. We got signed to a world music label called Four Winds, who did sort of an alternate kind of distribution. They would, like, you could find them like in gift shops. Like if you went to the Grand Canyon, there'd be a gift shop, you know, down at the bottom of the hill. And, you know, in the racks, you'd find Spirit Nation CDs. Well, they had those kinds of distributions all over the place. So we actually did pretty well with Four Winds. We did a second Spirit Nation record called Winter Moons, which wasn't as good as the first. We found a different singer who was actually half Jewish and half Native American, which was interesting. She actually sang a song in Hebrew and Native American, which I thought was the fucking coolest thing in the world, you know. I mean, if somebody like Enya or some, you know, huge, you know, world music artist had done it, they'd go, oh, fucking great, brilliant, you know. But the fact that we weren't on the radar, we did it, it kind of went unnoticed. So over the years, Jimmy and I had accumulated all these songs. We probably had, I don't know, 30 or 40 songs. And Jimmy was being managed by a guy named Giles Lavery. And he heard these songs and he loved them. He was incredulous that we couldn't have gotten deals with these songs. I mean, he really loved these songs, which is great for my ego, I must admit. And he said, listen, I'm going to get you guys a deal with these songs. We said, man, but these are only kind of demos. I mean, they were good demos, but they were still demos. He goes, I'm going to get you guys a deal. And Dogpaw, what is that supposed to mean that Spirit Nation is on Bandcamp for $2? What exactly does that mean? In any event, so this Australian label called Melodic Rock put out a 2 CD set called Voices from the Past, which is the title of one of the songs I wrote. A 2 CD set of all our songs, which felt incredible. You know, I mean, it was really, really cool. And Jimmy and I mentioned in this chat here that those same songs, Jimmy and I are sort of re-recording, and there's a couple singers involved, some really, 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 really good singers. And Giles is going to take this stuff, and he's sure that he can go out there and get us a deal. So that's kind of the short version of Jimmy and I riding together. I mean, it's been a long road, and he's, this guy is so patient. I tend to get frustrated really easily, I mean, I don't play guitar all the time, so the guitar will be out of tune, or I'll try to play a thing and I'll fuck it up, and I just go insane. And he never yells at me, never gets upset with me. Say, man, just take your time, just do it again. So anyway, the guy is special. I mean, he deserves, I mean, he's a great, great keyboard player. Mm-hmm. His work ethic is unbelievable. He treats people incredibly well. He's organized. Everybody loves the guy. I mean, he just deserves so much more success than he's had. And he's had a lot of success. Oh, I see what you're saying, man. I appreciate that, Dogpa. But a lot of things in life aren't fair. But, Jimmy is one of the special people. And without him, I mean, my songwriting would be nowhere. So I owe him a lot.
Nice guy he is, too.
It's unbelievable.
Very nice guy. Joe also.
Great guy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So Steve, you have interviewed Steve Vai and Yngwie a number of times also?
I have.
Yeah. Your bio says Steve Vai 9+ times, many times.
That's probably about right. I mean, first time I interviewed Steve was the second Alcatrazz record, the Steve Vai record. And again, Jimmy, I mean, he knew that I was writing for guitar magazines. I was always interviewing guitar players. So I'm sure he must have said, hey, man, Steve Vai's in the band. And certainly I'd heard of Steve. I think we talked in a previous episode here. Oh, no, my freaking battery is dying. Hang on, guys.
While we're waiting on Steve.
People that can't control everything.
Oh, my God. Talk about a freaking technical disaster.
Don't you dare.
I'm sorry. Tony, go ahead.
So, Steve, what we're going to do later on is in the giveaway, and there's going to be one question about Alcatrazz. We are going to give away a nice guitar pick, and
subscribe to win, folks.
This
there you go.
It's going to be a Steve Vai Guitar Pick from the 1988 David Lee Roth Skyscraper tour.
Cool, man.
Best thing about that band is Steve Vai. Sorry.
I didn't hear
said
that.
out loud.
Why is Alcatraz spelled wrong again?
Where?
Every time there's a banner up, it'll come by again.
Oh,
That
that.
stuff just drives me insane.
Oh,
Jimmy
gosh.
doesn't care.
Let me.
There it is.
It's not me. I have no control over that aspect of
Oh,
the show.
God, I'll
That-
tell you,
no,
man,
it-
that makes me insane.
It is all on me. 1 second. 1 second. And
While you're doing that, Ben Tom mentioned that, yeah, man, it's $2 for 2 songs on the album, the Spirit Nation record. I appreciate you saying that, because the way Dogpaw said it, sounds like you got a whole record for $2. And that was a bit insulting, to be honest with you. So thanks, man.
Wow.
Yeah, all that is on me, and I guess I need to edit my show title too. Yep, it's me.
Yeah, I don't control that part either.
Just
Yeah.
make sure you don't make that mistake again, bud.
Oh, I know. I
I'm
know.
so glad I'm not getting the stern talking too.
Everything happened so quickly from the time you emailed me this morning, Steve. We were online working on stuff, her and I got your email, and from that moment until showtime, everything happened very quickly. So
8
I'm sorry.
a.m. Saturday morning. This dude over here is saying, "Can you help me just grab some coffee? Let's design a shirt." And I'm like, okay, yeah,
You know-
right there, man.
Yeah, real quickly, Tony, it's not you. I read a fair amount. I read a lot of books. And if there's a typo in a book, it makes me insane. How can there be a typo in a... I'm talking about Tom Robbins is one of my favorite authors. There are typos in Tom Robbins books. You mean to tell me the number of fact checkers and spell checkers, it's just like, it makes me insane. If I'm looking at a book on music and a guy spells a musician's name wrong, part of me wants to find the guy and say, "You dickhead, how can you possibly know anything about music if you can't spell the guy's name wrong?" It just strikes me as being so wrong somehow. I know nobody else
Let me ask
gets
you this,
bothered
Steve
by it.
Rosen.
To me, it is just, oh my God, it makes me crazy, man.
Let me
It's
ask
the
you
writer
this.
in me, and I can't avoid it. I'm sorry, Sandra, go ahead.
Does it drive you mad to know that somebody's put more than 3 dots and an ellipsis?
You have no idea.
Oh, that irks me too. Stop at 3. That's all there is.
I know. You're absolutely right.
But you'll see people dot 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 dot. No.
Or just incorrect.
3 dots.
Grammar. Makes me insane. But commas in wrong places or semicolons, and that stuff's hard. I get it. It's hard. And you know what? If you don't think you're going to do it right, avoid that usage entirely. Rewrite it and make it simple. So that's me. That's
That's a little mistake, though. I'm the guy that misspelled the band name on the day their new album came out. So shit.
And they had to spell it that way because they couldn't spell it with the 1 Z, which is the Alcatraz prison, right? They weren't allowed to do that. So. Plus, they also wanted a word that a band name started with A, so they'd be at the front of the phone book, so to speak. So,
Steve, I want to ask you. I've listened. You have a Steve Vai interview up on your YouTube page, and it's a very good interview. Everybody, go check that out. It's really good. I want to ask you about that in a second, but what I want to ask you.
Every interview I've heard so far on Steve's channel has been just really good.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. But now
Thank you.
I hear the whole world say that Yngwie Malmsteen is not a nice guy. I've heard that quite a few times. You've interviewed him. What is your take on that guy?
Well, that's a loaded question, Tony.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But since I've been pretty honest here in recent weeks with various musicians,
Yep, you
I'll,
have.
I'll try to, yeah, man, I'll try to give you the long story in short form. Again, Yngwie was playing in Alcatraz. Jimmy knew that I was writing for all the guitar mags, Guitar Player back in the day. And he says, "Hey, man, this guy Yngwie, you know, he's pretty unbelievable. And, you should interview him." And again, I had heard of Yngwie. He was in Steeler previously to Alcatraz. I'd never heard him with Steeler, but somehow I had heard his name. So I think Jimmy gave me his number, and or maybe Jimmy set it up. Yngwie was living out in the valley. I live in the Hollywood Hills. The valley is basically, you kind of go up and over Laurel Canyon, and you're kind of in the valley, and he lived kind of at the far end of the valley. So the freeway's right away. And I'd gotten there a few minutes early, and I knock on the door, and I should back up a second. I must have listened to some of it was a No Parole from Rock and Roll record. So obviously I knew who Yngwie was, and I knew how he played. And, again, not my favorite kind of playing, but I mean, I recognized, that this guy was special, that he had a thing, that I hadn't quite heard before. So I knock on the door, and Yngwie comes to the door, and he's got a Strat strapped around him, and he's playing. I thought, oh, this is cool, because I love when guys sit there and they're playing guitar when I'm talking to them. And I can go back and I can hear them playing. It's kind of an ambience kind of a thing. So we go in, and he seems nice enough. And we go in, and I sit down, and I'm setting up my cassette player, and I'm kind of ready, and he's still practicing. So I go, "So Yngwie," and he goes, "No, man, not yet. I'm not done practicing." And I'm trying to emulate his Swedish accent, which is a pretty thick accent. And so I said, "Okay." So I'm kind of sitting there watching him. I said, "Wait, like 5 minutes." So I try to, start the conversation. So Yngwie, tell me what it's like playing. "No, man, not done yet. I'm not done." And he's sitting there, playing the Strat acoustically. And I mean, it is really kind of remarkable watching him. I mean, he's doing all that neoclassical stuff that he'd become famous for. And, he's doing those string skipping things and the wide intervals. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Oh.
So I'm watching him, and I would say, all told, I swear, probably 25 or 30 minutes goes by while I'm just sitting there waiting for him. So I think at a point in time, I just say, "So Yngwie, tell me about playing with Alcatraz," or whatever the first question was. I don't remember. So he says, he gives me some kind of an innocuous answer, and I kind of register that. And, I knew that he was a big Blackmore guy. Either I had read about that or Jimmy had told me about that. Actually, I probably didn't read about it because there was no place to read about it, right? There's no internet. I couldn't go online. So I mentioned something about Blackmore. He goes, "No, man, I never really listened to Richie. Only a couple things." So I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, man." So we keep talking, and Jeff Beck, who is my favorite guitar player, I never inevitably bring up Jeff Beck to whatever guitar player I'm talking to. He goes, "Oh, man, what do you think about Jeff Beck?" And he goes, "Who?" And I go, "Jeff Beck." And he goes, I don't know who that is." I go, "You don't know who Jeff Beck is?" He goes, "No, man, I don't know who that is."
Wait a
I
second.
go, "Yngwie, let me get this clear. You don't know who Jeff Beck is?" "No, man, I don't know who Jeff Beck is." at that point, I realized the guy's just,
Right.
right. I mean, what, he doesn't know Jeff Beck. I mean, what a ridiculous comment.
Right.
So we're talking some more, and by then, he's kind of, I'm kind of getting tired of him. I mean, he's not a mean guy. He's so full of himself
Yeah.
that nobody else in the world matters. No other guitar player matters. And that's not the way to win and influence friends. It's certainly not a journalist who's there to do a story on you
Right.
for Guitar World magazine, right? I mean, he hadn't done any major press yet. And I'm not saying I was king of the hill, but I mean, Guitar World was pretty fucking, I'm sorry, it was Guitar World when I interviewed him. Sorry, not Guitar Player. Guitar World was pretty fucking heavy.
Yeah.
So, right? So,
and you have
so
the
we're
power
talking,
to make him look favorably or not. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So a lot of guitar players, if their strings are dirty, they'll, hang on, guys. See if I can do both of these. So you can see, they'll take, how do I get this to, I'm trying to get it so you can see me and the guitar, like they'll take their finger, kind of run it down the string. Sorry, I know I'm making you dizzy. Kind of run it down the string, to kind of clean it off.
Right.
Right. So he did that. The string was a little rusty. The string got underneath his fingernail into the pad of his first finger. And I mean, I watched this string slice into his finger, and my God, the sympathetic pain, I cringed. And I'm watching this going, oh my fucking God, this guy just destroyed his career. And I'm watching that, and he does it, and it's like he doesn't even blink. And I'm watching, and the blood is now starting to pour out of the tip of his finger, like his finger has been chopped off. He goes into the bathroom, comes back with a huge wad of toilet paper wrapped around, and the toilet paper is seeping through. I mean, I mean, I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, or that skin underneath your fingernail. That's a famous, bamboo spikes under your fingernails kind of torture. I mean, I am watching, going, oh my God. I go, dude, are you okay? He goes, yeah, man, yeah, it's okay. I said, maybe you need to go to the hospital. And I don't think you ever went to the hospital. And that night, they were actually playing at a thing called Midnight Special, which is this late night. I think it came on at midnight.
Yeah.
On Channel 7, and a lot of famous bands were on there. I mean,
I remember watching a lot of them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
Right, and they were playing that night, and Yngwie was so, actually he played pretty well. I mean, you'd never know that he had just sliced his finger open, like a fish. But he was so loud, and he would play over every time Graham would sing a vocal. Yngwie would play a guitar lick. And I mean, he just did that constantly. He just had no respect really for anybody. And to be honest, he never had a whole lot of respect for Graham. Jimmy would tell me when they were on the bus touring that Yngwie would come in, after show, and everybody's sweaty after a show. Yngwie would take his sweaty clothes and throw it on Jimmy's bed.
Ew.
In retribution, Jimmy would take Yngwie's Strat, the Strat that he used that night, and would throw it the length of the bus without the case. I mean, just destroying it.
Oh, shit.
That's the kind of stuff Yngwie would do. So, fast forward, the story comes out.
Yeah, get off the fucking bus, asshole. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. This guy. So the story comes, and I'll be quick here. The story comes out in Guitar World, and Guitar World had titled it "God with a Chip on His Shoulder," which I thought was fucking brilliant. I thought it was perfect. Yeah. As I'm talking to this guy, I'm going, if this guy can stay out of his own way, he's going to go on to do monumental things. If he treats everybody the way he's just treated me, this guy is going to be doomed. So the story comes out, and of course they take that quote, Jeff Beck, I've never heard of him, man. and they blow that up into a big, you know, bold box.
Oh shit.
Sure.
And they changed a couple things, you know. I had originally written Ingve, and in parentheses I put rhymes with Stingray because nobody knew how to pronounce his name. And I thought, oh, that's a clever thing. Well, Guitar World put Ingve, parentheses, rhymes with Oive. For those non-Jewish speaking friends out there, Oive means, oh my God, or oh no. I mean, it was a cheesy thing to do.
Como Dios
So
mío.
the story comes out. Fast forward, I think it must have been a few months later, Dio is playing at the Forum, and afterwards there's a party for Dio at the Cat and Fiddle, which is kind of a famous English pub on Sunset Boulevard. So I'm there, and Jimmy is there. I think maybe we had gone to see Dio together. And I look over, and Ingve is there. Now, I don't want to put words in Jimmy's mouth. Jimmy's always had a Hal Face remembers the quote. Thanks, bud. Has always had a love-hate relationship with Ingve. Always had mad respect for his playing, but Ingve was not the easiest person to get along with. But Jimmy, being the kind of person he is, Jimmy could tolerate basically anybody. So Ingve is there, and you know, I see him, you know, and I kind of avoid him, you know, and he kind of walks up to me, says, "Hey man, you're a fucking asshole."
Oh
said, well,
shit.
okay, man. You know, what am I supposed to say? You're a fucking asshole. Okay, man. Honestly, that kind of insult coming from Ingve, it didn't mean anything to me. Now, you know, Richie Blackmore saying that to me, or Jeff Beck saying that to me, I'd be like on the floor crushed. But Ingve, it just didn't mean anything to me. He goes, "You're a fucking lousy writer." And that didn't mean anything to me. He says, "You're a fucking shitty, lousy writer." Oh, man, you know, I'm sorry. He goes, "Man, they're the fucking lies you wrote." I said, "Ingve, I have every single word you said to me on tape. You want to listen to the tape? I'll play it back for you." You know, because there he was just, you know, he'd forgotten he said those things, or, you know, maybe he regrets saying those things. But I don't think he regretted it. And then he makes an anti-Semitic remark, which I'm not going to even say here. And I sit there and I hear him say that. He says it once, and then he says it again, and that was it for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, one of those Westerns, you know, with the guys in the saloon, and the guy comes up to him and pulls his gun out. And so I take my drink, I pour it, I kind of throw it into his face, you know, so he's kind of temporarily blinded. And then I kind of pop him. You know, not a hard hit because I'm not a fighter, but I kind of pop him on the jaw, and he goes down, you know. At this point in time, I am ready to kill him. And he's a bigger guy than I am. So, you know, it's like, you know, be careful. But I was really incensed. So he comes back. I mean, he kind of grabs me, you know, and he's like scratching my face like a fucking little girl. I said, "I'm going to fucking kill you, man." So we go down the ground, and I'm grabbing him, man. And I swear to God, I am ready to kill him.
Right.
Jimmy sees what's going on. He runs over, kind of grabs Ingve away from me. By then, the bouncers have come over, Dio's bouncers. The fireman's, it's called the fireman's grasp. It's when, like, a fireman, one of the guys will grab like his legs, and the other guys will grab like beneath the arms, you know, and kind of walk them out, you know, prone. Well, they kind of take Ingve and they toss him out of here.
Good.
And Ingve, and Jimmy says, "Man, if I had seen what happened."
What happened?
We lost him. He'll be back.
Oh,
I never knew he kicked Ingve's ass.
yeah. Way to slug the son of a bitch.
How cool is that? That's the wildest story I've heard Steve tell yet. I never knew that.
Good.
Holy shit.
Man. Good for him. I wouldn't have taken that shit neither.
My Lord. My Lord.
Okay, now that we got a second, I'm going to say, I heart Jack the Rabbit. Hello to Mike Neese, Mitch Heyman, Clive. Bent Tom, the dog puss, still hanging with us. Thanks for being here. Hal Face, Mitch Heyman, congratulations on your retirement. Blackjack
Sorry,
guitar.
guys. I got kicked out there. I got lost. I'm back.
All
Sorry.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, no worries.
So anyway, yeah,
Let
that
us
was kind of
hang
the end of the
it.
story. So
So
let me give a final postscript here. So after that party, David Lee Roth had a little after hours club called the Zero Club. It was like a basic little dive where you could drink after hours. So Jimmy and I go over there. Somehow we got in, and Yngwie is there. Yngwie starts walking over, and I don't know why. Jimmy looks at him and says, "If you fucking come over here, I'm going to kill you." And and Jimmy would have done that. Fast forward probably 4 or 5 years, Player magazine, a Japanese magazine that I wrote for, wanted an Yngwie Malmsteen story. They said, "Listen, we want to fly you to Miami, where Yngwie lived. He may still live there, to interview Yngwie." And I thought, well, okay, why not? My first instinct was to say, "Fuck no." But I thought, what the hell? I said, Yngwie, can look at his interview list. He knows I'm coming. If he didn't want me there, he would have said no. So I'm there with my friend Niels Lozauer, the great photographer. I knock on the door, and I'm not sure what to expect. And as soon as the door opens, Yngwie kind of hugs me. He says, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry what I said and what I did. I didn't mean that. I was just, young or stupid, and I was drinking." And I mean, Neil and I spent the day there, and he could not have been nicer. And he apologized, and I was playing his guitars, and I was driving in his Ferrari, and he took us out to dinner. So I have to say, man, that at the end of the day, he actually turned out to be a decent sort. I interviewed him many times after that. They were phone interviews, but he was always very cool. And he realized, he had made a big mistake. And lastly, when I said earlier that if Yngwie could get out of his own way, he would have a massive career. Well, I don't think that Yngwie ever did get out of his own way.
No.
He pissed off a lot of people. He continued to do drugs and all that kind of thing. Nobody can deny his talent, but I think he pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah,
And as popular as he was,
it's a damn
I
shame.
don't think he could have. I don't think he ever reached the levels of Steve Vai or Satriani or any of that stuff. But anyway, that's my Yngwie story. Yeah, good guy, bad guy. Actually, a very smart guy. Collected guns and movie props, and had the gun from Taxi Driver that De Niro uses. He's looking in the mirror. You talking to me? I mean, the guy was actually a very cool guy. He got carried away with stuff, and he said stuff that he knew was going to fucking make me crazy. But did he believe what he said? I don't think so. So
At least he apologized,
Yeah,
Yngwie,
exactly.
which is a lot more than what a lot of people would have done. So.
Exactly.
just because he didn't want his ass kicked again by Steve Rosen.
There you go. Oh, real quickly,
Way to
I
go,
had-
Steve.
I had a friend named Stan Findell, who's an attorney, and he was also a writer. And Stan wrote for an industry magazine called Performance. And the next day, he was there and he watched the whole thing. He wrote a little story. It was, the usually mild-mannered Steve Rosen, knocks out the Yngwie Malmsteen. So I was famous for 3 minutes there.
Nice. I never knew that, Steve.
Yeah,
I that's classic right there. That
that
is
was
classic.
a good story, definitely.
Oh my
That's
Lord. Oh crap. So Steve, Steve Vai, what's your take on Steve? You interviewed him many times.
Yeah.
Steve has always been cool. I mentioned that first time I met him was for that Alcatraz record, and he was cool. Steve had just gotten out of Zappa, and Steve even admits, in fact, I think Frank said that Steve's guitar sound was like a hive of bees buzzing. I mean, Steve didn't have his rig together at all. I mean, he was playing great. So I'm sorry. So Yngwie is 6'3". I was 5, 6 on a good day. So anyway, so Steve didn't have his rig together. I don't even think Steve had an amp. So somehow Jimmy told him, or I told him, that I had a Marshall that I had actually gotten from Jim Marshall. I don't know if I ever told the story about visiting the Marshall factory in England. And actually Jim Marshall sold me a Marshall. Anyway, I had a Marshall. So I actually brought down the head, the 100-watt top. And Steve actually used that for a while. I'm not sure if he used it on record, but I brought it down and he did use it for a while. So Steve was cool. I mean, I would subsequently go on to interview Steve, as we mentioned many times. And Steve was always cool. Steve's a very cerebral guy, kind of a very kind of a, inner looking kind of guy. And, Steve spent a lot of time, becoming Steve Vai. He spent a lot of time on his guitar playing and coming up with kind of a new way of playing guitar and a new way of looking at the guitar. I think that interview that's up on my YouTube page was a fairly recent interview. When I say fairly recent, I want to say, I don't know, the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. And Steve and I would often, kind of go off into tangents. So it wouldn't be just about, guitar playing. And I remember asking Steve, if he was always that dude in school or that guy in the neighborhood, the second he picked up a guitar, he was like this unbelievable guy.
Sure.
And Steve, he said he never really had problems with guitar. So Steve, obviously, his learning curve obviously was incredibly fast. And I'm sure the first time Steve Vai ever picked up a guitar, the first week, Steve Vai was playing stuff that most people couldn't have played in a year. He was just one of those special guys. But he said the thing that he never had was any kind of self-confidence. Excuse me. That he was a nerd. He was, he wasn't popular because he was so good. He was playing with older guys. So, so he was always the nerd. And he said that was hard for him to overcome, to overcome that thing where you're always the shyest person in the room. Now you're on stage and, playing with other musicians and, you cannot be that person. So we had talks about that. In a lot of ways, in no way am I comparing myself to Steve Vai, the guitar player, but in terms of Steve Vai, being the shy guy, that's certainly who I was. And not that it's this is critical to the story about Steve Vai here. But I remember him talking to me, and he said, "There's only one word that you need to know." I go, "Really?" Yeah. He goes, "If you got one word, that's all you need." I go, "What is that?" And he goes, "Confidence." And he's right.
Huh. Yeah.
He is right. You can have every fucking other thing in this world, the talent, the looks. You can have women and money and fame, man. None of these people, there are none of these people who have done that without confidence. Now, maybe the confidence is self-generated, and maybe it's not really there organically, but still it's there every time you see these people. And I took that to heart. I really thought a lot about that. Still a difficult thing to do. And I've talked about my interviews and sitting across the room, the table from Blackmore or Jeff Beck, and being scared out of my fucking skull. But, it's like I'm telling myself, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. So, if you want to call that confidence, and I suppose I would, I suppose I was able to kind of, draw on that thing, when I had to. But anyway, Steve is a very cool guy. Steve emailed me, a couple of times, and, just to see what was going on, which I thought was very nice. And he sent me like little Christmas, emails with he and his family. And Steve is a special guitar player. I've met a lot of guitar players in my life and a lot of extraordinary guitar players. But guys who kind of had that thing from the very beginning, from the moment they picked up a guitar had that's a different, that's a different level. That's that's flying where only the big birds fly. And Steve had that. He just had that. Yeah, Eric Johnson certainly had that. Van Halen has it. Jeff Beck has it. It's just a rare thing. I mean, when Steve Vai holds a guitar, you go, that guy had a guitar in his hand from the moment he came out of the womb, or maybe he had a little baby guitar in there. You know what I mean? It's just the way they hold the guitar. And if you've ever sat close and watched these guys, which the way their fingers are on the fretboard, I mean, there's, that's like Da Vinci. If you were sitting next to Da Vinci, or watching John Steinbeck, right out, East of Eden, or it's just something different, just something, very unique. So anyway, Steve's a very cool guy. All the accolades he's had during his career, he certainly deserved every one of them. He's worked really hard to be who he is. And man, he's always been a very cool guy with me. If I've ever need anything, hey, Steve, man, can we do an interview? I got to do a thing. He's always made himself available, and
cool.
Was part of my Rock Gods project, which I think I've touched on here, and was willing to do something on video. So man,
You've
Steve is one of the guys.
You've interviewed him back in the Zappa days and later on with Roth and Whitesnake, and even after that, Steve?
Yeah. Again, the first time was just after Zappa. But yeah, Alcatraz. And, I can't remember if I actually interviewed him during the David Lee Roth and Whitesnake days, because there could be lapses of many years when I would interview him. But certainly we've talked about all of that stuff. And I remember asking him about David Lee Roth. He goes, David said, yeah, man, you got to get your hair done. You got to wear the clothes and the whole thing. And Steve said, yeah, man, I was a rock star. And I said, was it cool? He goes, are you fucking kidding? He says, it's like all of a sudden you're playing in arenas and
all right.
God, and everything else that went along with this. Steve's a pretty straight guy, so it was never about drugs or anything with Steve. But, I mean, the money must have been insane. He was co-writing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I can only imagine.
Yeah, man, the Whitesnake gig. I mean, my God, that's, that wasn't exactly a low key gig. You know what I mean? That was pretty. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty cool.
How about we give away a guitar pick to somebody?
Yep.
How's that sound?
Sounds good, man.
Everybody ready? Everybody in the chat? I see everybody's still hanging on.
Cool. Should have a little music for it's trivia giveaway time.
Trivia
Steve,
time.
There you go. Write a little guitar part for trivia giveaway time.
That's right, Steve.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I was reading the chat. Say it again.
You should write a little musical piece for trivia giveaway time.
I should. Let me work on that.
Yeah, a little riff.
I can't put my phone down because I've got the cord in it and I can't get it to stand up. So
that's why I see.
I can't walk and chew gum. That's why it looked insane when I tried to bring the guitar. So I can talk about guitar players, but I can't use my fucking cell phone. So.
All right, so we are going to give away this Steve Vai from Skyscraper tour in 1988. That was a big tour. These guitar picks, they are
Rare.
Not cheap. Yeah.
Rare.
All right. So is everybody ready? We are going to give you one question about Alcatraz.
You have 10 seconds to answer starting now. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So there's going to be one question and one guitar pick. I have no multiples of this week.
One winner only.
One winner only kind of thing. One is all. So good luck to everybody.
Yes,
This is
good
a
luck.
multiple choice question, A, B, C, or D. I need one letter. If you're the winner, go to my YouTube page, About section. There's an email address at the bottom. Give me your name and address, and I will mail you this guitar pick out Monday morning. All our winners each week get their guitar picks before next week's show. Gabriel Tone Guitars and Hal Face were last week's winners. Yeah, okay, so with this question, I'm going to show it on the screen. It's multiple choice on Alcatraz, all right?
Numerics gets it go. I'm kidding.
So the first answer I see that's correct is the winner. Be quick. When I say go, go. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Who was the original guitar player in Alcatraz? A, B, C, or D? Yngwie, Danny Johnson, Howie Simon, or Steve Vai? Who was the original guitar player? All right, here we go.
Guitar hack.
There he is.
Guitar hack.
Guitar Hack is the winner.
Yes, congratulations.
Very nice, Hack. Very nice. I'm glad you won this, dude. Glad you won this. I think I might still have your address, Hack. Matter of fact, I'm sure I do. I will mail you this Steve Vai guitar pick out on Monday morning. And congratulations. I appreciate you being here today, as I do everyone. So thank you so much, Guitar Hack.
Go subscribe to Guitar Hack if you haven't
Go
already.
check out Guitar Hack Show every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Has lots of cool guests on. Hack, actually, Steve, Hack had one of the guitar players for Alcatraz on his show a couple of months ago. And I will tell you who it is. Howie Simon on his show a while back. But yeah, give Hack a shout on his channel.
Oh, but Rody, hey man, didn't see you sneak in.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so kids, next week it's going to be about Ozzy, Black Sabbath. We had to kind of change up this week when Steve got a hold of Jimmy and Joe. And Steve, we appreciate you doing that. That was so cool. So cool you lining that up. Awesome.
No problem.
I really, really enjoyed that. All right. So yes, Yngwie was the original guitar player when they started 83 at 19 years old.
Yep.
He was a young guy, that's for sure. Okay, so let's.
Congratulations, Guitar Hack.
Guitar Hack is the winner. Let me see. I'm trying to scroll back here. Bear with me. Yeah, there it was. Bent Tom was right behind him. Also answered A. I don't have any multiples of this, or I would certainly be happy to mail out another one of those, but I only have that one. So, all right. So, is Gary in the chat still,
Am
Sandra?
I?
Gary, is
No,
he
he
still
said he had to
here?
go quite a while ago.
Okay. I have on his shirt, brand new shirt, Big G's Garage. All right. So, kids, I appreciate everyone coming by. It's been a great show. We have,
It's been a ball.
we do. I want to recognize our lovely co-producer and moderator. Thank you, Sandra, for everything you do around here.
Thank
Much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Now,
Hey, Tony, excuse me.
yes,
You spelled moderator wrong.
I spelled moderator wrong too.
I'm kidding, buddy. Got to keep you on
Holy
your toes
shit.
here, pal.
You are keeping me on my toes, my friend. You are keeping me on my toes. I was like, oh no, again. Holy crap. All right, so big announcement. We have an awesome show coming up here in another hour and another hour.
Oh God, really?
Sandra, I'm gonna let
Oh, that's
you
right, my show.
tell. I'm gonna let you tell all about it.
Hi. Communication breakdown, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it tonight. We got a special guest, bodybuilder and guitarist extraordinary, Kane Roberts, is going to be joining us. So don't miss it.
Excelente. Excelente.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
super excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Let me see where I am up here. Okay. So, Steve, hang out backstage a second. You too, Sandra. Everybody else, we appreciate you stopping by this week for Show Me Your Pick. Next week, Ozzy, Black Sabbath, lots of interview stories, lots of guitar picks,
Hit the like, leave
backstage
a comment.
passes. Yes, please leave a thumbs up and
Subscribe to the link in the
subscribe.
description.
Yes, please. And thank you. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
All
guys.
right. So, everybody have a great week. I appreciate you coming. Thanks.